Do you know what caused the fall of the Soviet Union?
And do you know what the Iron Curtain is?
How did Eastern Europe progress after independence?
Well, stay tuned to find out. I'm Wade.
I'm Ruby. Okay, so Wade, we talked about how the world is against Russia invading Ukraine. I understand that we're against violence, but I wonder if there's more to it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. The Ukrainian people have already lived through a communist regime, and therefore I think there's a very strong sense of anti-communism in this fight.
That makes sense. Could you tell us more?
Yeah, of course. So let's start with the fall of the Soviet Union. Most people would know that the Soviet Union was a communist state, and the USSR spanned Eurasia in 1922 all the way to 1991. And I think you know what I'm about to ask you next.
No, not again.
So Ruby, what does USSR stand for?
Fine. I'm gonna go with United Sarcasm Skating Reunion.
You're so close. You want to try again?
Sure. Okay. On a serious note, I'm gonna go with United Soviet something Republic.
Close enough. It's actually the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics.
Oh, it's very close.
Okay, so throughout most of its existence, the country was a one-party state ruled by the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, with Moscow being its capital.
Its whole existence, so like almost 70 years?
Yeah,
That's a really long time.
quite a long time.
So what led to its ending?
Well, basically a revolutionary wave during the late 1980s to early 1990s took place, and that ended a lot of the communist rule in parts of Europe, also known as the fall of communism or the fall of nations.
Like it was going strong for so long, but broke down within a decade?
Yeah, so as people began to globalize and we live in a world that's so connected now through the internet and all sorts of things, you see that people started to see other ways of governing and other governments operating differently. And so that obviously led to the breakup of the Soviet Union and the rejection of the communist regime. And in many parts of the world, people began to look towards a more democratic world. One by one, you see the republics that were controlled by the Soviet Union began to declare that they want their independence. And actually, the final blow was Ukraine. Ukraine is considered to be the second most powerful republic, and so they voted overwhelmingly for their independence, 1st of December, 1991. So yeah, that was a time that we weren't even born yet.
Of course, I was born 18 years ago, so like 2004?
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
So yeah, that means that we've only ever lived in a time where Ukraine was established as an independent country.
Russia being such an influential country, I imagine the world would change a whole lot as the Soviet Union broke down.
Yeah, so the balance of power of the world shifted dramatically, marking the end of the Cold War. And the Cold War was the period that was a heightened geopolitical tension that took place between the US as well as the USSR. Now that we're talking about the Cold War, I wonder if you've ever heard of the thing called an Iron Curtain.
Iron Curtain. To be honest, the only thing that I remember about the Iron Curtain is that it was named by Churchill.
Oh, that's impressive. I thought you were gonna say like something you saw in IKEA or something.
Almost.
Yeah, so actually Winston Churchill did coin this term, and it was in 1946 in a speech given in Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri, describing the part that divides the Western and Eastern Europe after the end of the World War II.
So the east of the Iron Curtain are the countries that were connected to or influenced by the Soviet Union, when the west of it were the countries that were either neutral or NATO members.
Yeah, that's correct. It's also used to refer to the 7,000 kilometers long or 4,300 miles long barrier that divided these two parts. And that consisted of walls, minefields, watchtowers. And this also consisted of the infamous Berlin Wall, which consisted of West Berlin and East Germany.
And I think I also remember that there's a famous speech given by President Ronald Reagan.
Yes. Wow, very impressive. So you're correct. In 1987, Ronald Reagan gave a speech addressing the issue. And he had the famous words saying, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." And it became very well known after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which took place in 1989.
Okay, so now that the Cold War had ended, I wonder how it influenced Europe?
That's a very good question. So since the fall of the Soviet Union and since the end of World War II, we see 18 nations went from poor to wealthy, starting from Southern European countries, including Greece and Portugal, to East Asian countries that include South Korea and even our very own Taiwan.
I've always wondered how forms of government would influence economy.
It's very good because throughout history, economic developments have been consistently achieved through manufacturing expertise. So something that Eastern Europe had common with East Asia, and manufacturing can generate regular export incomes which can be reinvented into factories and infrastructures, making it self-sustaining driver of economic growth.
Very cool, but in English, please?
So basically, with democracy, it equates to unlimited potential growth because you give the people the power and they have the freedom to really drive and thrive in the sphere that they're in.
So like the companies that we've seen coming from the States?
Oh yeah, great example because we're talking about companies such as Apple, Amazon, Twitter.
Speaking of Twitter, have you heard that Elon Musk bought Twitter to ensure free speech?
Yes. That's absolutely crazy, but that's also another example. Elon Musk basically wants to establish free speech, and therefore he decided that privatizing the company, he was able to have more power. And that's a great example of what it looks like when people shift away from being governmentally controlled. Well, so that concludes our video today about Eastern Europe. I hope you have learned something useful, and if you have, be sure to hit and share and like our video.
Be sure to visit us on our FUNDAY website, FUNDAY.Asia. We'll see you next time.